Welcome to the Coffee with Closers show, where we interview real investors that are doing real deals in this current market about how they are finding, funding, and flipping the deals. We talk about what they are doing that is working and the things they did that didn't work so that you can save time and money as you become a real investor. Welcome to the Coffee with Closers show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another show with Coffee with Closers. I have some good friends here with me, Travis and Amber, and we're going to dig into a deal that they've done which makes them closers, right? So this should be exciting. Pay attention. I got lots of questions to ask them about their deal. So Travis, Amber, how are you guys?
Good.
You got your coffee today?
We do.
Yeah. a little coffee. Got my Rhino mug going today. So, just so that everybody knows, let's just kind of get into a little bit about, you guys. Tell me a little bit more about you. I mean, obviously I know you, but people who are watching this aren't going to really know you. And, what market are you guys really focused in on? And let's start with, what made you decide to become a crazy real estate investor? What was that like? What was that journey?
Well, for me, it started quite a long time ago before the first crash. And I wanted to, and I thought about it, and I did some research, but I just never started.
Right.
And then recently, we got my mom actually went to one of the 3-day events, and I went with her. And from there, the spark was reignited, and here we are.
So I like how you said reignited, right? So it's almost like you knew even back then that real estate was the path, right? And but life gets in the way, doesn't it?
Does.
It gets in the way. It pulls us back, pulls us in many directions, but you got reignited. So were you part of that journey the whole way, Amber?
Not really. We were back in Colorado for the summer, and he's like, I'm going to this real estate thing with my mom. I was like, okay, bye. And then he came back, and he's like, I want to do real estate. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So
Ride or die, right? I love that. So you reignited. You said, look, I'm going to get back in this full force. And so from there, what was your steps? You didn't just run out and start doing deals. So what was your steps? You said, I'm going to get back into this. What was it that said, either A, I'm going to start looking for houses, B, I'm going to get more education, or C, I really don't know what I'm going to do right now? Well, talk me through that.
So I went to the 3-day, so I had a little bit of knowledge, and I kind of had a couple of ideas. So one thing that I had heard is find a mentor.
Yep.
So we just started looking for a deal so we could bring it to a mentor and go that route. And we didn't even know what a deal was. So we decided that we needed to get some education, and here we are. I mean, we went to the RIA and met you and started meeting the other investors in the area. And
really, we spent the first 6 months or so just trying to get as much specialized knowledge as possible so that way we could stay safe when we started out.
That's a big word, right? Safe. A lot of people don't think that because, like you said, a coach, mentor, and I'm happy that I've been able to be your guys' coach.
Us too.
Absolutely.
You guys have done what you're supposed to do, right? But scary, right? That's one of those things that sometimes people don't see the fear or they'll see scary and they'll see fear and they won't do anything because then they go say, well, I probably need a coach or a mentor, but then there's a cost associated with a coach and a mentor, and a lot of times the good ones aren't cheap, right? But you have to look at it as a trade-off, right? What could I lose if I just went at it on my own versus what could I invest in myself and my education? And here's the thing, you guys made an investment to hire me, and hopefully I fulfilled on that.
Definitely.
But also friendships get built from that, right? When you're with a mentor that knows so much about your life and sees the ups and the downs and the weaknesses and the strengths. I mean, there's something there that you don't just get, having coffee with somebody. So you went down that route. So talk me through that. I mean, when you dove in and you started getting processes and systems delivered to you in steps, I mean, did you just run out and start doing deals or, talk me through a little bit of that.
We had a little bit of analysis paralysis at the beginning. I mean, even once we were probably ready, we still, second guessed ourselves a bunch and just.
Well, that's nature, right?
Yeah.
We the analysis paralysis is a big thing. I that's one thing looking back that I wish we would have done sooner, is just started taking action sooner than we actually did.
16 years later, I still say that.
Yeah.
Because I say, look, when I got started, I had help, but I analysis paralysis too, right? You second guess it. Well, should I?
This can't be right.
This can't be right. Like I just tried that. It didn't work like he said or she said. Like, should I try it again? Like, but I always say, man, I should have just dug in and just ran as fast as I could, because it's not like real estate investing is some new thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, even on the deal that we're going to talk about, even when it was bought and fixed and all the way through, I'm still trying to figure out what we missed. What didn't we see? What's
But
what's
you know
the
what?
catch?
That's your mentality, though. Like, I've been with you long enough to know, like, you want to know how everything works, right? Like, and if you don't know, you're just going to make something on your own to work, right?
Yeah.
But that's a good skill set. I mean, it really is, because you're trying to identify, and I say this all the time when someone finally does their first deal, I'm like, now look at everything that you did right and repeat that over and over and over again, because, I mean, success leaves clues. I mean, it really does when you think about it. So, so let's talk about this deal. All right. So, I mean, you guys are in the Huntsville, Madison County market. And so you went out and you started digging up a deal, right? So let's go into some questions real quick. So what kind of deal is it that you did?
It's a Burr.
It's a Burr. So let's talk about, what is a Burr?
It's the buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat.
And repeat, right?
Yes.
Buy, renovate. So you did a Burr method, which says to people watching this, the intent was cash flow.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And obviously the intent in cash flow is to buy all these little houses, right? And then once you have enough houses, you go out and you buy, I broke my little house.
You're gonna need a roofer.
I need a roofer. Somebody call me a roofer in here.
Somebody specializes in plastic.
So I'll turn it around. We'll make a good sideshow. So then you go and get the apartment, right? And so you're in the model of growing right now, buying all the little houses, doing the Burr method. And explain to people why the Burr method is a good method.
We're using it because we have a limited amount of capital to invest, and that allows us to invest it and then take that capital back out and leverage the property and then go on to the next one.
Love that. Leverage. That's the key word with Burr, right? Burr is all about using either the limited funds you have or not using your money at all, using like a hard money lender or a private lender to acquire it and then refinance it and get that money back so that you can do it over and over.
Which is what we're doing on the one we're doing now.
Which you got another one going, right?
We're combining.
We moved up to the apartment level a little bit.
A little bit. It's
a threeplex.
Threeplex. Gotcha. So let's talk about this. Next question I know everybody's going to want to hear is, how'd you find the deal?
Wholesaler.
Networking.
So networking, meeting people, finding other wholesalers. You connected with a wholesaler. They brought you the deal.
Yes.
Now, the irony to this deal was what? I remember. You had seen it once before or something like that?
We had seen it once before, and I don't remember, we were on our way out of town or something, and we didn't have time to really run the numbers on it, so we passed on it, and then this wholesaler got it, and it was $10,000 more, but it was still a good deal. But also, I don't even honestly know how I got the guy's email, but somehow I got it mixed up with the ones I had gotten at the RIA, and I sent him an email with our detailed criteria, what we were looking for, and it was that email that made him contact us in the first place with this deal, because he said, based on our email, it seemed like we had been doing it for a while, and we knew what we were talking about and everything.
Hadn't done one.
We hadn't even done a deal. So
because it was about the language, right? It was like, hey, you guys look like you've been doing this a while. Like, let's talk. Because I remember you guys had said to me, like, he didn't really like working with new people.
Right.
No.
But he didn't know you were new until the end, right?
Until the day before we closed, when we signed the contract, we told him this is our first deal. And he told us then, he said, if I didn't realize that, or I guess we told him when we were walking through, because when we were signing the contract, he said, I didn't figure I'd ever see you guys again. I figured you hadn't done a deal and you were just wasting my time.
Oh, that's too funny. But isn't that, I mean, think about that. Like, there's a lot to be said behind that, right? Like, if you guys hadn't have had the right language or the right questions, I mean, you could have ended up not getting that deal.
Right.
And wouldn't have even got to talk to him about the deal.
Right, because some people are like that. So you found it through a wholesaler. All right, so talk to me about what you in your business, and we're going to get back to the deal, but everybody always likes to know about marketing. So talk to me what you're finding or you're doing right now. Top 3 marketing strategies that you're implementing right now, that you are saying, hey, look, this is the direction we're going with marketing.
I don't know if it's technically marketing, but networking is a big one for us right now.
Networking is marketing. People don't understand that, but it is marketing because there's lead generation through that.
Networking, and then he's been cold calling, and just plain old fashioned driving for dollars with direct mail.
Driving for dollars. And so you're driving for direct mail? Are you using any type of tool?
Not at the moment.
Not currently. We were using a tool.
Yeah.
But we reverted back to just plain old yellow letters because we had the best results with that so far. So
that's good to talk about. So you were using one of these little apps, Snapshot, send a postcard, but you found that you were able to just take the address, write out your letters, and you're getting a higher response rate from the letter than you are the postcard.
Yes, we didn't really have much luck at all with the postcards. We got very little response.
Gotcha.
And then
and you know what? And that's so funny because like I could talk to the next person behind you, and they'll say, "Oh man, I've already gotten 3 deals off of that little tool." You know, so it's so ironic of how marketing is, right? And you know, it goes to the rule of thumb that says if you're not marketing, you're not doing anything. But I think there's another side behind that says if you're not testing and monitoring your marketing, you're not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you could just be throwing money at the door. So, all right. So, talk to me about what was something that went wrong on that deal.
I'll let you take that.
Oh, what do we got here?
Oh yeah. Honestly, it was our biggest thing, which didn't end up hurting us at all, but we just seriously misjudged the timeline. This one was out in the county and it was our first one, so we decided to do it ourselves. And we're like, oh yeah, we could get that whole house painted in like 2 days. So, but I mean, you know, that's kind of a common mistake for first-time investors, especially when they do it themselves. And, you know, we ended up getting the whole rehab completed in 2 weeks, but it was crack of dawn to late at night, just busting.
Yeah, because you guys were digging in yourself on
it.
You know, and there's an old saying that goes, you know, mistakes are fine because you either learn from it, right? You either win and learn what you did right, or you mess up and you learn what not to do again, right? And so one of your things is you learned about timeline management, right? Especially doing it yourself. I mean, but still, 2 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, we're still proud of it. It's just, we kind of wore ourselves out. Because we were pushing that timeline.
A turnaround in 2 weeks is great.
Yeah.
I will say that, even if you misjudge it. So then tell me what went right.
Our numbers. I mean, it worked out almost exactly. The numbers that we ran were almost perfect.
Your budget.
We were under budget on the rehab. We were a little under on what it appraised for when we were done for the refinance. The numbers, the cash flow, the rent, everything
all the numbers that we sat down and talked about and ran and did everything were kind of spot on through the whole process. So that was what went right. Yeah, because that could be, you know, a gut blow if you say, oh, I'm going to do this for $8,000. It turns out to be 16. You're
right.
Well, one thing that we didn't really we thought about it, but we didn't realize the importance of it is that appraisal when you're done, especially if you're trying to burr it, to be able to get, and if you're planning on leaving some money in the deal, it's not as big a deal.
Yeah.
But if you get that wrong, you may end up leaving more money than you wanted to,
which throws off your entire return.
Right.
Yeah.
Entire return. So that's a good point. I'm gonna hang on that for a minute, okay? Because, you know, a lot of people will go and say, oh, well, here's what I think it's worth, and if I can refinance it at this. And I've always said, look, if you're not accurate, it's better to go ahead and order an appraisal on that property, because like you just said, Travis, you don't want to get stuck in that deal thinking that you're going to be able to get an appraisal for, say, 80 and it comes in at 67. Mm-hmm. Well, that's $12,000 more that's going to be left in the deal that you didn't plan on, which then throws your entire cash on cash return off, which means now it may not be that great of a deal anymore. Because we look at it as disciplined investors, and it's all about the return, right?
Right.
It is.
It is. It's all about the return. Well, that's what went right. So let's dig into some of the numbers, okay? So let's let everybody know about this deal. So let's talk about this. What did you buy it at?
$32,500.
So you bought the deal at $32,500.
Yes, sir.
What did it appraise for?
70.
At the end, it priced for
$70,000.
Yeah, our home run number was 65 for the appraisal.
So it came in over your number, $70,000 appraisal. How much did you put in for the rehab?
$7,500.
$7,500. So you were just shy of 40 grand into it. Okay, so now we're sitting on roughly $30,000 in equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you refinanced it, did you leave any money in the deal, or were you able to pull it out?
No, we got all of our money and paid all of our... Because we actually had a private investor.
So the private investor funded the 32?
Yes.
And you guys funded the 8?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And by the time we paid everybody their profit for using the money, we refinanced at 70% LTV, and were able to pull an additional $2,000 in cash out
and
to
left
pay
22.
ourselves a little bit for our
And
work.
you were still in at 70%, which is a very safe number.
Yeah.
So whatever happens in the market, I mean, that's a very safe number. So you refinanced, and you didn't have to refinance at 70, right? You could have went to what, 80,
85.
85?
80, I think.
80, okay. So you were like, look, and that's a safety measure. And I tell people all the time, like, why pull out more than you need to? Don't leverage the property. And that's a big thing to listen to, guys, because a lot of people use Burr to try to refinance and just pull out as much money as they can. But the problem with that is now that property is fully leveraged. And if the market turns, say, 15%, well, now you're sitting on a deal with only 5% left in it. You don't even have enough to cover commissions if you sell it. You know?
That's we're kind of looking at it as we pulled out as much as we can because our number was 70%. We weren't willing to go over that.
And that's discipline. That's what that is. That's discipline right there. I love that. You had a good coach.
We did. We learned from the best.
So the point now is so now you have no money in the deal.
Right.
No money, and you actually put $2,000 in your pocket, paid your private investors back. They're like, when's the next deal, right? Because they made money. You now made money, and now you're sitting on a property with no money in the deal.
Increased our net worth with the equity we left in it.
$30,000.
We ended up with $22,000 in equity.
$22,000. So your net worth went up. And so let's talk about your cash flow. So let's talk about what are you renting it for?
$850.
$850. And they got a really nice property. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So you rent it for $850. Now let's talk about this. So after we take out our mortgage debt service payments, our management fees, our taxes, insurance, maintenance, reserves, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. What are you left with right now with a net?
About
$197 a month.
So about $200 a month, so $2,400 a year off that one property. So if we got 10 of those little houses, we got $2,000 a month coming in.
Right.
But what I want the listeners to really listen to this on is that you also have a reserve in that house of 15%.
20%.
20%. So $170 a month is going into a reserve account, which means that's almost $2,000 a year that if nothing goes wrong with that property, you didn't make $2,400, you made $4,400 that year.
Yes.
Which probably makes your return even greater.
It does.
So you can't even calculate a return on that because there's no cash in it. So let's see, I'm going to put you to the test.
Okay.
When there's no cash in the deal, you can't calculate a cash-on-cash return. So what do you have to calculate?
Return on equity.
Yes! Ding, 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 ding. I need a bell. Ding, 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 ding. Oh.
So much awesome. Baby, press it again.
All right, that's awesome. So you got a return on equity now. So if we're $22,000 in equity in the deal, and if we're able to stabilize that property all year and keep the $4,400 at the end with the reserves, you're talking what, 20+% return?
20%.
20% return on just the equity. Do that math real quick. I see I hit you with a question you didn't have written down. So that's 20-something% just on the equity in that deal. So, there's people watching this right now that they're not getting greater than 4, 5, and 6% on their money right now. And they're looking at what you guys are doing and they're going, how in the world are they making 20% on equity, not even their money? Right? So that's like free money being created because you were able to strategically strategize on what you were going to do and how you were going to do it. I mean, I think that's wonderful. I think that's a little tap, tap, tap little tap, tap, tap going there. Make you drink your coffee while I do. Okay, so we talked about what kind of profit. So let's dig into this part. So what's the goal over the next 12 months? Talk to me about that. What's the big goal?
Really to dial in our marketing and get it figured out so that way we can create our own lead flow rather than having to go and rely on like wholesalers and such and create our own leads. So that way we can pick the ones we really want and wholesale the rest.
Right. You know, there's a mentor of mine years and years ago. It's so funny. I was just talking to him maybe a week or so ago. He's in his 80s now. I mean, he's old school. But he calls that parasite marketing. Because I remember when I first met him.
Doesn't sound good.
I know it doesn't. Listen, and I even said to him, I said, Ted, you're not going to believe this. Because he had brought it up again. I said, every time I'm working with a student and they're telling me that they focus on the MLS or other wholesalers, I'm like, even though that is a lead source, I said, I always say, hey, that's parasite marketing. And I say, as soon as I say it, I think of you. Because like when he asked me and I said to him, this is what I'm doing, he looked at me and said, you're a parasite marketer. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound very good.
I want to do that.
But the point of it is like, think of it like a parasite on the body, right? It only feeds if you feed yourself, right? So like if we're only working with agents, we're only getting deals if the agent decides to feed us, right? So to your point, dialing in your own marketing over the next 12 months, creating your own lead gen, tracking down new lead sources, figuring out direct mail lists, doing things that will create your own lead flow doesn't make you a parasite marketer, right?
As well as continue with what we're already doing because it is bringing us deals. It's just kind of a slow trickle. So
you remember the pinwheel we talked about?
We did.
Yeah, like you want as many lead sources as possible, right? Wholesalers are one lead source. Agents are one lead source. You know, direct mail's a lead source. Bandit signs are a lead source. I mean, and then you could break them into multiple categories, right? Like wholesaler could have 30 wholesalers in it. Direct mail could have, like hundreds of different lead sources that we could go after. So that's your marketing game plan over the next 12 months. What about the deal flight? Are you going to keep moving for Burrs? Are you going to get into some rehabs?
That's our plan.
We plan to do, or our goal is to do at least one Burr a quarter.
Completed.
One Burr per quarter. Okay.
And then we also want to start looking at a flip.
Yep.
We're still not sure about that. We're not really excited about doing a flip yet.
Wow, you just did one on your first one.
When we first started, like we figured that's what we were gonna do, do flips to make money to buy rentals, and then we did the Burr thing, and we're like, well, that was fun. Let's do that again.
Right. Well, because you're building wealth, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the difference. But with the flips, it helps feed the wealth model, right?
Yes.
And that's the big key to that is, if I could do 2 flips a year or 3 flips a year and add an extra 60 grand, well, that just means I could go do more Burrs, right?
Yeah.
Or even bigger Burrs or more 4 units or an apartment complex. Like that's where the game gets serious right there. So I like that. All right. So talk to me about what you think about the current market. You're out there, you're having dinners and lunches with other investors, you're talking to agents, you're making offers on properties. I mean, what's your perception on the market right now?
Well, we want to preface that with this is the only market we've ever known. So
that's fine.
It's very normal to us, but I think that for us, the biggest thing to remember in this market where it's very competitive and there's a lot of people offering on everything is just know your numbers and stick to your numbers. You got to figure out what you're comfortable with and make that your number and don't get emotionally attached to a deal because you want it.
Right.
There's a
if
lot
the
of
numbers don't make sense. You got to be willing to walk away.
There's a lot of properties right now being presented as great deals, but they're not. So you just have to, really know your numbers.
Well, no, you're right. Numbers are the key and removing the emotion. And that's a great thing because here's why. You guys are looking at this like, hey, well, we're still new. We're getting into this. But do you realize there are going to be people who watch this that haven't even done what you've done yet? Yeah. You know what I mean? So like the things you're saying will help influence them. It'll help guide them. And you've made some very good points today, right? Like thinking back of everything I did that I could have done different, like knowing your numbers. I think that's a good thing to talk about. So let's just take a moment and before we move on to the next piece is the best advice for somebody that was where you were 6 months ago?
I would say figure out how to run your numbers and just take action. You have to. If you don't do anything, you'll never do anything.
Right.
Once you get comfortable with the numbers, the math will keep you safe.
Yeah.
And if you know your numbers, just take action, make offers, and buy something.
Take off or buy something.
Specialized knowledge doesn't do you any good if you don't do anything with it.
Isn't that the truth, though, right? There's you guys hear me say this quote all the time by Les Brown, right? It says, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great," right? And I think a lot of times that holds people back because they in their mind they have this perception like they're supposed to be something to do this, and they don't see themselves as that something yet, right? And they're like, "Well, I'm not really here yet, so I can't really do that." But it's not about that; it's about the journey, right?
That resonates with me.
Because you have this vision, like if I'm going to go do this, then I need to be here. But I think that holds people back.
It held us back.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it does. And, I know fear holds a lot of people back, but I also think that, when people are really digging deep, fear is something that holds you back. But I also think it's the self-judgment that holds us back, right? Like,
I'll agree with that. And I think that and I guess it relates to the fear too, something that you said to us, what's the worst thing somebody could say to you if you ask them? And everybody wants to say, they could say no, but that's not true because it's yes. Could be the worst thing they could say to you because then you have to do something.
Then you have to take action, right?
Yep.
No, that's good you catch that because I say that all the time. I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And people say, well, they could say no. I'm like, no, they could say yes. Now you got to do something because now you got to get out of that. Because it's almost like a self-doubting belief. Like we want them to say no. So we put that out there because we're like, what if they say yes? Then I don't, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, I remember when I first got in this business many circles around the moon ago, I used to ask people all the time, why don't you make offers? And they're like, well, I don't know. If they say yes, what am I going to do? And that's where it resonated with me, right? It was like the biggest thing in this business. There's two things that I always say you got to do. What are they?
Get specialized knowledge.
Get specialized knowledge. That's the foundation. But what's the two things I say you will never stop doing, no matter how big or how long you're in this business?
Marketing?
One is marketing. You'll always be marketing. And the other one is you'll always be raising money, right? You'll always be marketing. You'll always be raising money.
You say so much stuff repeatedly. You kind of got to lead us into what one you're referencing.
Well, I do say a lot of things.
Pop quiz.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, a lot of it is simple terminologies, but there's so much meaning behind it, right? And I say that to people all the time. Like, you've always got to be raising money. You've always got to be marketing for leads. That's the nature of this business. But on the other side of it, when we deal into marketing, you've got to be talking to people and you got to be making offers. You got to be talking, you got to be making offers. And I think that was a big fear for a lot of people, was the offer aspect of it on top of making the phone calls. Because people think, if I get on this phone, they're going to ask me questions that I don't know how to answer. True.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to say it's not, right? But how are you going to be able to get better?
Practice.
You got to get on that phone, right? I mean, you got to.
We're still struggling with
I
that.
know. I remember, like, with you guys, it's like, just get on the phone, right? And it's easy for me to say it because, I mean, I'm 16 years into this thing, right? Like, pick up a phone, call someone, sure, let's call, right? But for a new person, it's not. So talk to them about that. Like, if I was brand new and I said, look, I'm scared to be on the phone, Travis, Amber, I'm scared to get on the phone, what would you say to me?
My advice would be I don't really have good advice for that. Just pick up the phone and dial because the more often, and this is what I found with me. And so right now my problem is I'm changing who I'm dialing and I'm having trouble again.
Yeah.
And I need to follow my own advice. I just need to dial the phone. But the first call is always the hardest.
Yeah.
After you make that first one, and especially if you get somebody to answer on the first one and you talk to them and you have a good experience with them, it gets really easy after that.
It does because, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, now that you're in the dialing mode, are you starting to realize, like, a lot of the questions are the same questions?
Yes.
They're just either asked from a different person or a different way, but they're all kind of asking the same questions depending on who you're talking to in the situation. And that's what I try to tell people. It's not like after you've talked to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, you'll realize, oh, I've had this question before. Oh, I've had this question before. It's similar questions throughout the journey, right? Unless it's to their personal situation, right? Their situation could be different. So, well, that's good advice, man. That's good advice. I mean, how do you guys feel now that you can actually say you closed the deal?
I'm good, really good.
Ready to keep it going.
Yeah, because I remember you said something to me once before. You're like, now I actually feel like when I talk to people, I'm an investor.
And when somebody asks you, what do you do? It's, well, we're investors. Oh, how many properties do you own?
Right.
Well, we're still looking for our first one. Well, now we have one, and it's not incredible yet, but it's on
a
its
good
way.
deal. I mean, look, 20% on your equity. That's great, man. And I don't know how, there's no way to downplay that.
It's an incredible deal. I mean, saying you have one is not incredible.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, you just started, if you really add up, I mean, if you take out travel and vacation and the wedding, if you take all that out, you've really been at this 4 to 6 months.
Exactly.
Right? Some people do this a year.
Ourselves all the time.
Like, I know people that have been doing this for longer than a year and still haven't done a deal. Right?
Yes.
It's just getting it done.
And I don't want to, I'm not trying to discredit having the one deal. I'm just, I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm looking for more.
I know what you're doing.
I want more.
You do want more. And that's the drive. That's the entrepreneurship, right? That's the, I know I can do more, right?
Do better.
That's right. That's what, and never let that die. That's what makes champions, is that right there. So, and you got a deal you're working on right now, a 3 units.
Yes.
You got a land deal you're doing research on. So you guys are neck deep in it, right? You got a trailer park you're digging in on. I mean, you guys are out there digging, man. Anyway, I'm happy for you guys. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end with some fire questions. You ready? All right. Tell me this. What's the best place to go to vacation?
So far, our best vacation we've taken is to Universal, but we haven't really been many places. But we're planning on going to Machu Picchu and the Great Reef, and we kind of like the outdoorsy stuff like that. But
Yeah. I like
bucket
that.
list.
Bucket list. That's
Once
what
we
it's
get this
about.
rolling.
That's right. Favorite automobile?
I'm a Dodge guy, so
I like Jeep.
my favorite Dodge would probably be a Challenger.
Challenger. Those are cool. I'm a Tahoe guy. Favorite season or holiday?
Mine's fall.
Fall, right now. That's
Although
mine
not
too.
this weather.
Oh, I love this weather. When the weather hits 60 and 70, I'm like, perfect.
Well, I like that temp, but not the pouring rain.
Comes with it.
I like the same temp, but I like it when it's warming up to those temps, not coming from the summer down to those temps.
We have 4 seasons. We're blessed. Some places across the US, they only have 1 season. Right? Like when I lived in California, we really only had 1 season. We didn't have the change in the weather and all that. But I always say this, like, we're known as 4 seasons, right? Winter, fall, spring, summer. I think there should be a 5th season. It should be Christmas. I just think it should be. Best podcast you've ever listened to?
Coffee with Closers.
Coffee with Closers. I'll take that. Favorite food?
We really like the barbecue place down the street from our house.
Barbecue. Yeah. I love it. All right. Early to rise or sleep in?
Early to rise.
Early
Sleep
rise. Sleep in, early to rise.
Yeah.
What's early for you?
Between 3:30 and 4:30 usually.
Wow, that's early. So then the next question is early to bed or late to bed?
Early to bed.
Early to bed. So what time do you go to bed?
I try to be in bed by 10 o'clock or so.
Okay, all
9 to
right.
10 o'clock.
So you're a late riser. What's late in your book?
To rise?
Yeah.
7.
Oh, that's not late. Some people watch this and be like, oh, girl, that's early. You don't go to sleep until what, 11, 12?
Probably 11:30 usually.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. That's not that early. I mean, that's not late. I wouldn't say 7's late at all. Favorite book you've ever read?
I like The Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh, it's a great book. That is a great book.
I'm kind of torn on this one, but I think I'm going to go with How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just a lot about networking and understanding people and yourself.
Yeah, that's a great one. Favorite movie?
We like the Harry Potter series.
Harry Potter
Well, that and
series,
Adventures,
right?
but-
My son dressed up as Harry Potter on his way to school today.
Did he?
Today was pajama day, and so he has a Harry Potter pajama with the tie and everything.
That's why the Universal trip, we took a family trip with his kids down to Florida to go to the Harry Potter.
No, I love it. I wasn't one that watched it in the beginning, but I came back and like vegged out on it. You know,
Have you ever read the books? They're so much better than the movies.
You know, here's my thing with books. Like, I'm good with business books, but when I get into like biographies or fiction, I just don't do well with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the movies.
Yeah.
The movies was great. So, well, guys, I appreciate you being on here. Coffee with Closers, right? I'm just proud to say that you guys are there now. So, anyways, it's been great to have you on here. Love that you answered all my questions. I hope that everybody watching this gets some value out of that.
Definitely.
Mean, to just kind of see the deal that you did and how you did it and where all the money came from and the marketing and all that stuff. So that was cool stuff, guys. Hey, this is Zach with Travis and Amber Good. If you want to reach out to them, if you've got a deal, where would they go?
Facebook at Rocket City House Buyers.
Facebook at Rocket City House Buyer. And website?
RocketCityHouseBuyers.com.
RocketCityHouseBuyer.com. If you got a deal,
Buyers with
because there's two of them. Hey, anyways, guys, reach out to them if you've got a deal. You need to sell it quick. That's what they're here for. If it's anywhere in this market in northern Alabama, I'm sure they'd be happy to look at it. Until the next one, this is Zack Attack, and this is Coffee with Closers, and I'm out.